Should I send it to Andrew?
What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. Late start tonight, apologize for that. But welcome to Midtown Manhattan. 57th Street and 5th Avenue tonight. It's a beautiful night, and tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day. 75 degrees in the city, bright sun. It's going to feel like summer. Thanks for joining TGIF. Hopefully all of you have a wonderful events planned for the weekend. Look at the Louis Vuitton store here. Now, I hope all this scaffolding comes down before the holidays. I don't think it will, because they just put it up. But I'm concerned because usually Louis Vuitton has some of the best holiday/Christmas decorations. So we'll see. I'm curious to know what Tiffany is going to do this year, because this is the first year that Tiffany is not going to have scaffolding all over it. So we'll see. Anyway, we'll get started in a moment. We're walking past the Amman, New York. Let's check it out from the corner. What do you guys think? So 5th Avenue, 57th. The Louis Vuitton store. Now they kind of, they made the scaffolding look really nice. Maybe they're doing some sort of mandatory facade restoration. We'll see. Anyway, guys, let's go ahead and just do the quick audio and visual check. So if you guys can hear us and if we're streaming in 1080p, let's go ahead and leave a thumbs up in the chat so that we know we're ready to go. And if the audio is working, if the visual is working, we'll go ahead and kick this off from 5th Avenue. Look at how beautiful the Tiffany building looks, though. And a little bit further up, you have Trump Tower. This is a pretty cool shot of Trump Tower with the American flag in the background. All right, everyone, I think we can go ahead and get started here. Well, good evening and welcome back to Walks in Wall Street. Today is October 4th. It is a Friday and it is about 9:28 p.m. Eastern Time right here on 5th Avenue. We're right outside the Bergdorf Goodman, 58th Street. The Apple Store is here. Sherry Netherland Hotel, the GM building, all of that good stuff. And wow, it's really been an eventful week. I mean, we've covered a lot. We've pretty much had action-packed live streams every single day this week. This was the first week of the month, and not only the first week of the month, it was the first week of Q4, so welcome to Q4, everybody. We heard about the manufacturing numbers in the US when we heard from the Institute for Supply Management with the manufacturing PMI numbers. That was on Monday. Yesterday, we had the Institute for Supply Management Services PMI, which crushed, by the way, came in not only above expectations, but the highest reading in the service sector of the US economy in 12 months. And that brings us to today. Today is Friday. I'm sure all of you know what we're going to be talking about, at least for a portion of the stream tonight. It is the jobs numbers. That is correct. So according to CNBC, U.S. job creation roared higher in September as payrolls surged by 254,000 jobs. That's unbelievable. Non-farm payrolls surged 254,000 in September. That is up from a revised 159,000 in August and better than the 150,000 Dow Jones consensus forecast. Hope everyone's okay. So we had about a 150,000 job beat. I mean, those are absolutely monstrous numbers. The U.S. economy gaining over 250,000 jobs, unbelievable. Now, we're going to be talking about a few things, right? I'm going to try to keep it, as fair and balanced as possible. But the question does arise, are these numbers quote unquote fishy? Will they be later revised down? Or do we just really think that the economy is firing on all cylinders and the U.S. economy created 254,000 jobs and beat expectations by 150,000 jobs? I don't know. I guess we'll have to talk about it. But before we do that, let's do the most important thing of the night and say hello to everybody in the audience. And once again, happy Friday. Peter, what's going on? Thanks for joining us. I see Gary Carpenter. Gary, how was your week? How was the official start to Q4 for you? I see JC in the chat. That's another thing we're going to be talking about tonight is Bitcoin. So good to see you, JC. Doc7, what's up? Professor Dario, all the way from Argentina. Welcome to New York City. I'm really excited about this, by the way. This is going to be the new Grand Army Plaza. You can kind of see it's all under construction, but we are going to get a beautiful and brand new Grand Army Plaza. I see Robbie N. Good to see you. Yo Charles is here. Paul. Zozo Bob. Alan. What's up, Alan? It's good to see you, as always. Brendan O'Brien's is Fugazi. No Self. This is Peter Schiff tweeted that 86% of jobs created were government jobs, 100% without the seasonal adjustment. Yeah, we'll go in and we'll talk about that as well, which it's very, very important to understand which jobs are being created, right? And that is a concern of mine as well. I see everything in Miami. What's up? Good to see you. Now, I'm going to be in Miami next week, but from the looks of it, every single day next week is going to be like a torrential downpour. So hopefully there's not a lot of flooding in the Miami-Dade area because, after we kind of had that conversation last night about the hurricane that just totally destroyed North Carolina, parts of South Carolina, I spent about an hour last night after the stream, on the X platform, just, searching videos on YouTube, and my God, the destruction of that storm is almost kind of unbelievable in a sense. And maybe it's just because I don't watch the regular cable news that I haven't really heard much about it, but it's really, really sad watching some of it because, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. You just got to go on Twitter or the X platform and watch some of those videos. It's as like water came out of nowhere and just wiped some of these small towns literally off the face of the earth. It's crazy. So hopefully we don't have any of that in Florida. I know, JC, we had the Back to the Future car. Just, what's it called? Just drive by. Lost not yet found says everyone manipulates the truth to their own advantage. Yeah. Joe E, what's going on? Thanks for joining us, DC322. Well, we'll talk right about the jobs numbers because we had a lot of commenters about it. I don't think the jobs numbers are necessarily inflated because if you do go back and look at the revisions, it's very, very common that they're revised either up or down. It's not just like an anomaly that this just so happens now. I think there's a few things that I believe are going on. You have this unbelievable hyper focus on the economy and on the results, like these big jobs numbers, non-farm payroll that we got today, particularly going into an election cycle. So one side of the aisle or other is kind of waiting for these numbers to either blast them out and say, hey, look at how good the economy is doing, or if we get a poor result, the other side of the aisle will, take that number and post it and say, how terrible everything is doing. Yes, it's true, right? And I think what's more important than reading, a CNBC article or something like that is just going to the Bureau of Labor Statistics yourself and looking at the report, understanding which sectors in the economy are actually adding those jobs. And I think I forget who said it in the chat in the audience tonight, over the last few kind of reports, the government has been adding a massive amount of jobs, and so has the service sector. But that would actually kind of make sense, right? Because over the last few non-farm payroll numbers that we've been discussing, services have been doing really well. And it makes sense because when we look at the manufacturing PMI, when we look at the service PMI, I mean, it's at the highest levels we've seen in 12 months. So it is normal that those numbers get revised up or down. Left-handed, what's up? Good to see you. Who Dat Dave says government and service, whoop-de-doo. Exactly. Maybe that could be, you could interpret that whichever way you want. Bloated government. We kind of talked about the comparisons between corporate bloat. So corporations hiring too many people, then having to lay them off. The problem is in the government, there's really no oversight, right? The government is the government. There's really no. So if you're a corporation and you overhire, well, the CEO is going to be getting a lot of pressure from the board of directors, right? The CEO reports and answers to the board of directors. And if the board of directors is like, hey, what's going on? Revenues are stagnant, but you've added all of these employees. What the hell are they doing all day? It's either fire them or figure something out. The market kind of self-regulates to that effect, if that makes sense. But with the government, nobody's gonna, press to have, layoffs in specific departments. That's why, the old saying is if you want job security, go get yourself a nice, government job, so to speak. You have lots of security there. Who Dat Dave says hopefully government bloat will change soon. We'll see, who knows? I think with the way the US government is so bloated, to just do a slash and burn style, like fire everyone, I think that would have extreme negative ramifications on the economy. You really need to do it in stages. Because it's not like these people that are working for the government, maybe there's a lot of duplicity in their roles. It's not like they can't get a job in the private sector. They can, but there kind of needs to be some offboarding here. I think this guy's going the wrong way. There's no cars allowed in Central Park. Maybe he just got a little confused. Anyway. But guys, it's important to just understand the facts, right? When we got the jobs numbers out, the market really took off. The only thing that is a concern for me right now is two things. Number one, this kind of steep action in the VIX that we've been having. Now the VIX came down a little bit. I think it's under 20, maybe 19 and a quarter on the VIX. But look what's happening in the bond market. Is anybody noticing that? Here's what's happening. After we got the rate cut, right, 50 basis point rate cut, many people would think that, the curve is going to, adjust and actually discount even more. We've been having a little bit of a sell-off in the bond market this week. I'm not sure if you noticed that. The 10-year Treasury yield is actually up. I mean, yields are pretty much up, generally speaking, across the curve. Talking about U.S. Treasuries, so very interesting. Very, very interesting. And understanding the correlation there, right? As bonds sell off, yields spike. What is the market telling us? Is the market telling us that we're going to potentially have maybe like a little bit of a pickup in inflation? Is the market throwing a little bit of a hissy fit? Is the market concerned about growing relations, or I should say lack thereof, in the Middle East? Is this war with Israel and Iran going to escalate? Crude oil is just starting to get a little bit of a bid, but we'll see. Hey, Patient Lobster, what's going on? Yeah, you don't have to worry about the Nightbot. It just sometimes has a mind of its own. Middle-age grind this year. What's going on? Rich girl era. Cheers. Michael G says bonds. Yes, you touched upon it some last night. Paul, what's going on? JJ, welcome. Hey, Clarence, as Mohammed Al-Arian warns Fed jobs data, inflation is not dead. Yeah, Mohammed is a very, very well-respected economist. Now that has been the concern. This is an awesome shot of New York City's Billionaires Row. You see Central Park Tower 157, but look at this. This is Steinway Tower. This thing is insane. But that's really the big concern, right? Is, are we going to see a wave 2 of inflation? And if we want to just if we want to throw it all the way back to Paul Volcker, I know we kind of like beat this like a dead horse. We haven't really talked about it in quite some time. But when we had that steady, I should say, wave 2 pickup in inflation, Paul Volcker had to come in and just absolutely just make sure he killed inflation by raising interest rates 20%. I don't think we'll have that kind of scenario this time, but I mean, nobody knows, right? Not even the smartest people on Wall Street know. Which leads me to believe the following, right? Fed Chair Jerome Powell, I think he's been doing a good job. I know everyone kind of dumps on him, including myself, but think about all of the craziness that he's been through. I mean, he's been the Fed Chair through COVID. He's been the Fed Chair through, there's a fiscal side of the house, the US government spending and spending and spending, causing this massive inflation. He's been able to really, avoid a recession while maintaining near full employment. I mean, the unemployment rate actually dropped again. I think it's 4.1%. So he's doing the best job he can. But one of the reasons why I think he went a little bit bigger than anticipated with that 50 basis point rate cut is because he kind of understands the gravity of the situation around our national debt. Now, this is total speculation. This is just what I'm thinking. I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth or thoughts in the guy's brain. But we are accruing about $1 trillion in debt every 100 days in the US. And with the way interest rates have been going, right, prior to the 50 basis point rate cut, just the expense on our interest, right, just to service the debt has now eclipsed our defense spending budget. That is not sustainable. So maybe Fed Chair Jerome Powell did this as a little bit of like a writing on the wall scenario, trying to, quote unquote, bail the US government out, so to speak. But I don't know. If you start to see CPI trend in the other direction, instead of rolling over and going back up the other way, that could not only spook the markets, but that could maybe make the Fed reverse course again. So who knows? We'll see. Wow, this is a really, really unique shot here. Look at this. 220 Central Park South and Central Park Tower. Beautiful. Hey, Adam Luke, this is Tom. With the frequency of your walks and talks, you have so much more stamina than the other side during negotiations. I never thought about it like that. Maybe. For sure. It's almost become routine, I guess, for me. The frequency of these walks. I feel as if something's missing if we don't do it. I enjoy it. It's kind of fun. Jay is here. Michael Jesus, was Bill Clinton the only president to actually balance the budget? Now, I mean, you could say whatever you want about Bill Clinton. I don't think he's the most moral guy on earth. But from an economic policy and, if it's the economy stupid, I think he did a pretty good job. I think everyone would agree with that. I would think Democrats and Republicans would agree with that, right? We don't have to kind of go into all the filth and the nonsense that went on in the Oval Office, but just like putting all that aside and thinking about the economy, I mean, I think everyone would say 2 thumbs up, right? I mean, I didn't personally live through the Clinton era. I think I was a little bit too young, but what do you guys think? Would you guys agree or disagree with that? I mean, I wasn't of working age, so to speak. I guess to be more direct, I wasn't really a participant in the economy during the Clinton years. In terms of, having a job and consuming things like that. This is a good shot of 432 Park. DC322 says yes. Sam M says I tend to agree. Reggie says Republican Congress with him. There's some really, really good data that's out about when the stock market tends to perform the best. Is it under a Republican president? Is it under a Democrat president? Who controls Congress and the like. Go home! And I think the overarching theme that we could describe this is the market really likes indecision and a very, very split government. Thinking about it, it's quite funny. It's like a little bit hilarious to kind of think about it, but perhaps it makes sense, right? If the government is really split down the middle, then nobody could really get anything done, and there's no major changes in tax policy. There's really no changes in, I should say major changes. I won't say there's no changes, but there's no major changes if nobody can really get anything done, and you just let the private sector, have the pedal to the metal and grow the economy, which is pretty much what's been going on, honestly. Esmeralda says I was too young during Clinton as well, but my parents seem to be doing fine with me, my brother, and a cat. Yeah, I mean, I definitely would agree. Clarence Jackson says Stanley Druckenmiller is concerned about the United States fiscal situation. Gridlock in DC is good.
No, listen to me.
I would agree. I mean, Stan Druckenmiller is the GOAT, so to speak, the greatest of all time. But also, and I'm sure you've probably seen this, Clarence, one of my favorite times a year is when the Robinhood conference, the JP Morgan Robinhood conference is in town. If anyone wants to watch something over the weekend, I know it's Friday, so maybe you have some time off on Saturday, maybe you have some time off on Sunday, and you just want to watch like a really educational, entertaining video on YouTube, just type in the following, right? You could write this down, take a note. Type in on YouTube, Paul Tudor Jones, Stanley Druckenmiller, JP Morgan Robinhood Conference. It's unbelievable. The keynote with Paul Tudor Jones, it's not really an interview. I don't like to describe it as an interview. It's more of just like in conversation. That is a fantastic conversation between the two greatest to ever do it, honestly. Paul Tudor Jones, PTJ, and Stan Druckenmiller. There's 2 one-hour kind of talks at the Robinhood conference. It's unbelievable. And they talk a lot about, back then, this was I think 2 years ago, and Stan Druckenmiller has kind of been pounding the table about just the reckless fiscal situation in the US. Hey, Dr. Longest, what's going on? Good to see you. Oscar D, cheers. Patient Lobster says, I don't think people grasp how fragile the economy is right now, or the world economy is for sure. Hey, what's up, Deborah S? Zozo Bob says, remember the 90s economy was a very good one, especially with the internet explosion. Hey, Brad's Brain says, Tom, I once sat next to Hillary on a plane from Little Rock to Memphis. Bill sat across the aisle from her. I was a kid. Wow. I don't think I've sat, have I sat next to any politicians? Did you say anything? Or were you too young to kind of get a photo or an autograph or something? I've always said, I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you are the sitting president of the United States and I just so happen to run into you somewhere, I'm gonna ask for a photo. I think that's pretty historic, right? You know, print it out, put it up on the office wall, you could show your kids, regardless of what you think of the political situation. Like if I ran into Biden, right, President Biden, yeah, I'm definitely gonna ask him for a photo, 100%. Same thing with Trump, same thing with really all of them. Obama. Oh, you know who I recently ran into at the American Express Lounge at Miami International Airport? This was just before the DNC, the Democratic National Convention. I was sitting right next to Wolf Blitzer. Anybody know who Wolf Blitzer is, the CNN guy, the main anchor on CNN? I didn't say anything, but I was like, oh, that's Wolf Blitzer. Funny. Everyone, this is now Columbus Circle, and it is a busy night in Manhattan tonight. That's true. Clarence Jackson says presidents are a small elite group. Has anyone in the audience, just out of curiosity, I know we're kind of going off track, has anyone here ever met a sitting president or a former president, got a chance to kind of talk to him? Anything like that? I'm very curious to see if everyone is as scripted as they are in private. Than what I usually like to say what we are allowed to see. I think that's the perfect way to describe it. The president's image that's projected to the public is what we're allowed to see. That's kind of how I think about it. Wow. Zozo Bob. It says you had lunch with the current mayor of Miami at his house. So that's Francis Suarez, right? I always get confused because there's two mayors, right? There's the mayor of Miami and then there's the mayor of Miami Beach. I forget her name, but he's awesome. Mayor Suarez. I think he's great. Big task at hand says, question, Tom, what if Wolf Blitzer would have walked up to you and said something? I don't think Wolf Blitzer knows who I am. I think it's the other way around. Right? I know who Wolf Blitzer is. He doesn't know who I am. But if he did, I'd say, hey, what's going on? Where you headed? Even though I know where he was headed, to the DNC. Wow, Julio's has met Hillary Clinton and Chelsea on the Hicksville train in Long Island. Really? Did they have a bunch of like security, Secret Service? Because I feel as if that would never happen like as of late. Particularly with all the rhetoric that's going in both places. I don't think Hillary Clinton, it would be possible for her to take the Long Island Railroad. This is 1 Central Park West, Trump International Hotel and Tower. And let's take just one more peek at 15 Central Park West. And then I kind of want to get back to the job numbers today because I think it was a massive, massive day, right? So I think we need to just settle the stakes with an assumption, right? Because we could debate if the numbers are cooked. We could debate, if the numbers are fugazi all day, right? We can go back and forth and debate that all day. But let's just assume they're not, right? Let's work off of a data set that is concise where we could all work off of it. So non-farm payrolls today, I think, came in at 254,000. So a little over 250,000 jobs added, just a massive, massive number. And it came in about 150,000 jobs over expectations. So think about all of the leading economic data that we just got out this week, right? The ISM PMI numbers, both on the manufacturing side and on the service side. You had services PMI come in at the highest level it ever has come in the last 12 months. So the service sector of the economy is ripping. And then we just got this outsized jobs number with unemployment dropping. So to paint the picture, the economy, right, on its face value, seems to be doing quite good, right? We're pretty much at full employment, right? What did unemployment come? I think it came back down to 4.1%. This is very important to be paying attention to. Yes, it's also important to pay attention to the revision numbers, but just the animal spirits on Wall Street this week, there was a lot to cheer about this week. I mean, if we're being honest, lots to cheer about this week. So what do we think that means for the market moving forward into Q4? I think it looks pretty bright. Michael G says corporate earnings are at an all-time high. Hey, Matthew says I had a beer with Charlie Sheen back in the 80s. Whoa, that must have been an interesting, fun time. Hey, Donna's here, what's up? We're just walking past 15 Central Park West. And right around the corner is where we ran into the former CEO of Goldman Sachs. It was 2 days ago. It was pretty cool experience. You never really know who you're going to run into just walking around the streets of New York City. That interaction sparked me to go back and listen to a lot of the old Lloyd Blankfein interviews on Bloomberg, CNN, and I also rewatched his testimony during the 2008 financial crisis. Reggie 44 is potentially the start of a big rally before the election. Well, I don't know. There was some data that I included in the newsletter that I sent out yesterday at like 6:30. If you guys didn't receive our newsletter, just go ahead and check your email. I sent out the Behind the Street newsletter yesterday at around 6:30 p.m. And there was some interesting data about the action in the VIX, or volatility, going into Election Day. There's 31 days, well, yeah, I think 31 or 32 days until the next presidential election. And from October 5th through October 31st is usually when you have the biggest movement to the upside in the VIX, which makes sense because everyone is trying to position before the election, maybe take some risk off the table, maybe just sell down some positions, lock in some profits due to all the uncertainty. And one of the things I've said is, with all the economic data we're getting out, right, stronger than expected jobs numbers, corporate margins and corporate profits reaching new all-time record highs in Q3. Any volatility or any outsized volatility going into Election Day, I think should be bought, and I think should be bought quite aggressively. So if we get a sell-off in the US, I mean, we've been seeing bond yields go up. That was probably the biggest takeaway for me this week. If you look at the yield curve, if you go to cnbc.com/bonds, you would think that since we got this 50 basis point rate cut, the curve would be, adjusting further downside across the board. But we actually had a pretty decent sized sell-off in the debt market this week, and the yield on the 10-year Treasury is up, the 30 is up, so the long end of the curve yields are going up. So if we do get this sell-off, or if we do get some volatility, maybe this could be, a setup, a nice setup for maybe a Santa Claus rally into the end of the year. I mean, what do you guys think? DC 322 says early voting and mail-in ballots are underway. What's going to happen with the massive destruction that's been going on in the Carolinas for the hurricane? I mean, some of these people don't even have any homes. I mean, some of the infrastructure of these smaller towns are completely gone, and that's not an over-exaggeration. If you look at some of the videos coming out on X, specifically as it relates to the hurricane coverage in like Asheville and places like that, there's nothing there. I mean, it's like the storm literally wiped away everything. So I wonder how they're gonna figure out voting, because there's really just no infrastructure. I don't know. And we're 31 days away from Election Day. So who knows what's gonna happen. Gary says FEMA is doing what they can, but Congress recently cut disaster funds. Troy Atman says they lost everything, but the government is giving them $750. I mean, it's that guy Mayorkas, right? And I don't really follow politics, but he says FEMA. I was listening to like a little excerpt on CNBC, and they played a clip of him saying that we're early, and this is kind of paraphrasing, by the way, but he said, look, we're early in the hurricane season. We're expecting more storms. That's what he said. We said, to use his words, not mine. We're expecting more storms, and we just don't have any more money to pay for it. Like, we're out of money, right? It's just, we never say we're out of money for anything else, right? Again, we discussed this yesterday. When it comes to wars, cruise missiles, paying to put 160,000 migrants in 4-star hotels, we never say we don't have the money for it. We just kind of just do it anyway. It's a very, very weird. It's like, I guess you could say charity starts at home first, but why hit the panic button and say, oh, we don't have any more money, we're out of the money, conveniently now? That's kind of what irks me a little bit about the situation, frankly put. I don't know, any thoughts there? Hey, what's up, Hang with Mark, Mom? Esmeraldas is there's one that's going to hit Florida next week. Central Florida, it's looking like. You know, that's what I heard too. And I'm going to be flying to South Florida on the 9th through the 11th. And I think Miami's even going to get hit with this storm. I was looking on the weather app, and it's quite literally going to rain almost every day, starting Tuesday of next week. So, and it doesn't take much water from Miami to flood. There was, I think they said, a 1 in 500 year flood event that hit the Fort Lauderdale airport. It was literally like a swimming pool. The entire airport was underwater. I was there for that. I flew out of Miami International Airport, and that was only like 2 days of really, really pounding rain. It wasn't even categorized as a hurricane or a tropical storm from what I remember. So, I mean, imagine if we get, you know, the size of the storm that we got, you know, 4 or 5 days ago. Was it Hurricane Helen or something? I mean, that could be a massive problem, my friends, for Florida. Hey, Alfonso, what's up? Miguel says the Fed prints it all the time. That it does. Miguel says, of course you were right, Tom. If they wanted to, they had the money the whole time. Yeah, money is pretty much an illusion, and I think people are realizing that because we just spin it up and print it. It just depends on the urgency. If the urgency is there, we'll print it. I mean, the city looks awesome tonight, especially the cityscapes on Billionaires Row. But just as a quick review, yes, it's important that we covered the manufacturing data that came out Monday. Yes, it's important that we covered the services PMI that came out Thursday. And then today, yes, it was important that we covered the non-farm payrolls, which absolutely blew the doors off of the place. But what's, I think, the overarching, right, if we go back to global macro, and I'm not the biggest global macro type of guy, but what is so critical, and I think we need to hammer this point home, is that you now have simultaneously the world's 2 largest central banks easing and stimulating at the same exact time. First, it was the Federal Reserve right here in the United States with Fed Chair Jerome Powell, the largest and most powerful central bank on this planet. And then last week, we have the PBOC, the People's Bank of China, going all out. You know, the heaviest stimulus we've seen since the rescue packages in COVID. So much so, as we reviewed yesterday, they're cutting interest rates on existing mortgages in China by 0.5%. So much so that they're opening lending facilities to corporations so they can borrow money to buy back their own stock, risk-free, by the way. I think that's important to note, risk-free. So free money to go in the market and buy your own stock. Those 2 factors alone, I don't think we really want to be fighting that, right? The old saying on Wall Street is, don't fight the Fed. So we have 2 things going on. We have, and again, assuming that the data is not cooked and fugazi, we could fight about that all night. But let's just assume the data is correct, and we'll review the data. Q1 and Q2 GDP came in positive. GDP data actually was revised higher at a 3% annual rate. So not only is the US economy growing, it's actually growing faster than anticipated. Service sector came in at the highest report, or the highest reading in 12 months. At the same time, this market and this economy has the Fed's wind at its back. I mean, is that something you really want to be stepping in front of? and being net short. Now, I'm not saying the market can't fall into correction. That's not the point, right? But over the long term, right? If you think about Q4, if you think about Q1 and Q2, the Fed and the PBOC is going to balloon global liquidity. I think you'll continue to see outperformance in gold, outperformance in Bitcoin. Maybe you'll have another kind of commodities rally flare up. And let's face it, that's very bullish for US equities and, at the current point in time, Chinese equities. Does anyone else have maybe a different take, or kind of what are your thoughts about that, just as we put the pieces together on, as we go top down, kind of bottom up, talking about the two largest central banks in the world easing, providing all this stimulus, while the economy is seemingly on fire in the US. Who Dat Dave says, yes, my advisor just upped his S&P 500 operating earnings projections from 245 to 265, an 8% increase. That's good data, interesting. Thank you for that, Who Dat Dave. Gary Buckley says, we currently have one of the most informed Fed as a group, regional chairman, and a very smart Fed chair that are doing it by the numbers. Michael G says, what's my take on ETH? I don't own any ETH, not anymore. I haven't owned Ethereum since, 2015. Which I probably should have held on to all my Ethereum, but I only have Bitcoin. The problem that I see with Ethereum is all of these other projects, which, by the way, I don't own anything else. I don't own any of these altcoins, just full disclosure. Oh, look at this Cybertruck. It's a matte black Cybertruck. That's another thing we need to talk about. Next week is going to be big, guys. Next week, we're going to get the Robotaxi event, 10/10, October 10th, 2024, Tesla Robotaxi event. That thing is going to be amazing. Speaking of amazing, check out this view, looking at 53 West 53rd Street. That's what I'm the most excited about, in all honesty, is this Tesla Robotaxi event. I am extremely excited and optimistic for that. But anyway, if you look at a lot of these other projects, these crypto projects like Solana and all that, the tech is better there than on Ethereum. Now, I know what everyone is going to say. I understand. Well, Tom, you could say the same thing about Bitcoin. I understand that, but what you need to understand is that Bitcoin really doesn't need to compete with anyone for fastest amount of transactions, right? It's digital gold. That's its value proposition, right? It's to be a scarce, unconfiscatable asset that you can control. The altcoin world, you could think, the way I think of them is individual software companies, right? I don't think of Bitcoin like that. I think of Bitcoin as gold, the number one, the bedrock of the crypto movement. So it really doesn't need to compete with these other projects on transaction volume and transaction speed and efficiency. I wonder what's going on here. The Great Gatsby. I think everyone's waiting for maybe some of the actors to come out, something like that. Remember when we saw Hugh Jackman come out? It wasn't this theater, it was a few down, more towards Times Square. What was he in? I think he was in The Music Man or something. Yeah, this is The Great Gatsby, a new musical. Looks like it's doing well. I mean, look at all the people. The line goes all the way around the block. Stretches all the way to Broadway. Well, if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video. Click the subscribe button if you're new. Oh, is that right, Leanne? It's an excellent show. Maybe I'll check it out. I mean, it seems like it. Look at the line. Is there anyone that we know that's in it? I mean, obviously I know Hugh Jackman, but he's not in this. But I don't really know any other big name Broadway stars. Brad's Brain says, guess what stock saw $40 today? Was it Palantir? I'll guess Palantir. I wish my internet worked. Leanne says, totally worth your time. I'm gonna mark that down and maybe I'll go see it. This M Social Hotel right here on the corner of West 52nd Street and Broadway. If you go in even if you're not staying at the hotel, if you want something touristy to do, just go into the elevator and take it to the roof deck. You can stand up here, sit up here. It's actually kind of nice. It's like an outdoor bar. And you have a direct view looking right into Times Square. I think I went up there once in college. I haven't been up there since, but it is actually kind of cool. Now, yesterday we also talked about Singapore a little bit. And the reason why I spent so much time talking about other Asian markets, because yes, it is true that the PBOC is easing and everyone is getting all, gassed up about the China trade right now. From experience, I've been burned many, many times on the China trade. So I'm trying to find the secondary and tertiary markets that will benefit from the PBOC easing. And from my view, I think it's going to be Singapore, I think it's going to be Korea, and I think it'll be Japan. Now, as we've discussed, the problem with Singapore is there is an extreme divergence between the economy in Singapore, which is great, right? The business-friendly environment. I guess you could even consider it a tax haven, I guess. And then there's a huge contrast between the public equity markets. The public equity markets are actually not good. And the reason for that is really due to the lack of liquidity and the lack of IPOs. If you look over the past 5 years, there really hasn't been much of anything really coming public in Singapore. If anything, there's been more delistings than listings. And that's been a real drag on the equity market. But the Singapore government is doing a lot to address those concerns, while at the same time, you're getting this massive, massive easing event in the region, in Asia. And I think you'll see a lot of that capital potentially flow into Singapore. So if you look at the STI, and I put this chart up in the newsletter, if you guys want to, if you haven't subscribed to it yet, you can scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email. But look at the Straits Times Index. It's about 300 points away from a new all-time record high, and it's very heavy. It has a very, very heavy allocation to REITs, real estate investment trusts, and financials. So you have a few things corroborating here at once. You have interest rates coming down across the board, while the two biggest global central banks are easing, and you have the index 300 points away from a new all-time record high, hasn't reached a new all-time record high since 2007. So check out the chart just so you can kind of follow along. And you're seeing tons of setups in Asia, not just Singapore. I mean, look at the Nikkei. I'm still confident that that will hit a new all-time record high. I mean, a lot of people are very pessimistic. Japan, a lot of people are very pessimistic. China, and also Korea. So maybe 2025 could be the year of Asian markets. I mean, just look at the outperformance in India. I mean, Indian stocks have been just absolutely on fire. This place was that Din Tai Fung. When I was in Korea, I went to this spot. It was pretty good, but if I'm being honest, you could probably get same, if not better, Chinese food in Chinatown in New York. Just being honest, but hey, what's up, Jigga? Good to see you. It says Singapore is geographically about the size of Chicago. Is that true? The size of Chicago? Really? I'm still bummed out I wasn't able to go to Singapore. But anyway, this is an interesting shot looking all the way down to Radio City Music Hall. Tons of traffic tonight. Let's see if we can cross over to 7th. Hey, Erica says, I agree. I said at the beginning of the year, Japan would be an unexpected promise. Well, we'll see. We briefly hit a new all-time high above the 1989 high. Then we had that little bit of an unwinding of the yen carry trade there, which I honestly think is just the shakeout or the handle thereof before the big breakout. Mikey G says, whatever happened to your trip to San Francisco? It got deprioritized on the list. I'm still very optimistic and bullish on San Francisco, but here's my thoughts. Here's my updated thoughts on San Francisco. I'm going to be taking a little bit of my own advice and also the advice of, I guess, some very close business associates of mine. If you spread yourself too thin across too many markets and chase opportunity, you really won't catch any of it. So focus on your area of expertise. Pick, 2 markets that you're really, really well versed in and just build your business and build your portfolio there. I don't know anything about California. I've never been to California. I know of Silicon Valley, San Francisco Bay Area, because I spent about a decade in tech and I had a lot of employees working over there, or I've had a lot of friends who work there. But in terms of navigating the real estate market over there, I can't do that from New York and I can't do that from Miami. So, I know every single building, every single corner, every single nook and cranny of New York City. That's my expertise. And I'm kind of getting there with Miami. So I think there's more than enough opportunity in the city of New York, more than enough opportunity in Miami-Dade, and that's probably where I'll stay for the time being. But that being said, if you're watching this broadcast from San Francisco, and that is where you live, work, and you play in San Francisco, let's say you have a job there, you have a family there, I would be shopping real estate all day, every day there. Everything. Commercial, residential. It would just be an everyday thing for me. Because the mispricing that's going on right now in the San Francisco Bay Area is crazy. It's crazy. We're going to look back on this in 10 years and be like, holy shit, they were giving it away. And this happens every 20 years. You have these big reset cycles. You have to just close your eyes, plug your nose, jump in the water and buy that fear. Because once all this crazy crime and the homelessness goes away, I mean, it's going to be lights out for San Francisco. It's going to be lights out. Yeah. Yeah, Mikey says if not San Francisco, just take a trip to the Gold Coast in California. Could be interesting for sure. Hey, what's up, Sal? Yeah, Tomahawk says you might get gray waiting on that. Look, it's always the bleakest before the turnaround. Every time in every market. I mean, think about it like this. Think about what's going on with Chinese stocks right now. I mean, China was deemed uninvestable, including me. I was, bad-mouthing, Chinese equities more than anybody, right? But it's always the bleakest. It's always the worst at the bottom. Like, you're not going to want to buy at the bottom. That's why sometimes I laugh at all these people who say, oh, I'm not buying this house now, or I'm not going to buy this apartment complex now because I'm just going to buy when the market crashes. There's two things to consider. Number one, if the market crashes, you're not going to buy. You're just not. That's just how it works. That's how markets work. It's always so fearful and always so unbelievably crazy at the bottom, where you will never buy. You'll be paralyzed. I mean, just think about what happened with COVID, right? I mean, only smart money was buying the bottom in COVID. And that's just the truth. Retail was net massive sellers during the virus, right? So I think the people who kind of scream the loudest about, oh, everything's going to crash, the market's going to crash. Number one, from my experience, they don't have skin in the game. They really don't. I think the people who have the loudest mouths about, the market falling apart and, the S&P 500 crashing 60%, they don't have any money in the market. They don't manage money. That's not what they do, from my experience. People who saying the real estate market residential real estate is gonna crash in the United States. The price of homes are gonna go down 60%. If you ask one of these people, hey, how much property do you own? Oh, I don't own anything, I just rent. Ah, got it. See, they don't have skin in the game, they don't have skin in the game. From my experience, anyway. Brad's brain says, exactly, Tom. Think of how hard it is to buy that stock you loved after it crashes. It's definitely hard. It's harder than selling it at the top for sure. No, I didn't. Peter says, Tom, did you see today that North Korea's Kim Jong-un threatens to destroy South Korea with a nuclear weapon after South Korea shows off its new ballistic missiles on its Armed Forces Day? I did not see that. But isn't that just kind of par for the course for them? I mean, isn't North Korea always threatening to blow up somebody? If it's not the US, it's South Korea, or it's someone. It seems like that guy always has a new target every day. You know, think about how crazy that is. And I obviously just recently came from Korea. Imagine how amazing both countries could be if they just both embraced capitalism and free markets, or at least just a mix thereof, right? At least maybe a mix of capitalism, free markets, and a mix of socialism. But if you go full dictatorship, full communism, well, you get North Korea. It's really, really crazy because just the close proximity, right? And it's obvious, right? North Korea, South Korea, literally right there, a couple miles away. I think Seoul is less than 100 miles from North Korea. Just the difference, it's just unbelievable. I mean, if you've ever been to Korea, you know, not only just Seoul, but even the smaller cities, they're so modern, they're so futuristic, they're so tech focused, right? You know, South Korea is, you know, one of the leaders in crypto. But that's that's what's possible, right? That's what's possible for North Korea. But they have this dictatorial regime, which is terrible. It's really crazy. Suarez. Says, I can't believe they're setting up the ice skating rink this early. It's crazy. Someone said it had something to do with the election, because they project the presidential maps, like who's winning. If Kamala Harris is winning this state, if Trump is winning that state, they project it on the rink. But Gary says they're going to turn on the Christmas lights December 4th, 2024. I think these folks are in line to get tickets to Saturday Night Live. At least I think. From time to time, we see people camping out here in the lawn chairs. This is the Rainbow Room. Yeah, look at everyone. It is Saturday Night Live. Would you guys wait in lawn chairs outside to get tickets to SNL? I'm going to say maybe. Depends on if someone is... But check out the line. Oh my gosh, it just keeps going. Maybe there's someone really famous hosting right now. Troy Atman says once in a lifetime, yes. More than that, no. That's fair. Hey, Felipe is here from Brazil. What's up, Felipe? Wow. Look at that, guys. Huge line for SNL. That's crazy. I wonder how long they have to wait. Mark says, Tom, I ordered mine in the mail. Took a month to get tickets. How big is the audience, by the way, for anyone who's ever been to SNL? How many people in the live audience in attendance? Over 100? Under 100? I actually don't know. Hey, Robert Parker. Good to see you. Zozo Bob says SNL is in its 50th year. Whew. Natalie says, who's hosting? Why is there a line? It's probably someone really famous that's hosting. I'm actually not too sure who's hosting it, but to be honest. Hey, what's up, Lee? Lee, what are your thoughts on the impending storm that's about to hit Miami next week? Oh, wow. Guys, check this out. The line continues. We almost forgot about this section of the line. It's like they have everyone corralled in here. Look at that. And I think it goes up northbound too on 6th. That's why in the chat, Coldplay is the band. That's cool. Hey, good to see you. Maybe they'll have a special appearance. Let's go down to the Diamond District and make a right. But if you guys are just joining, we were talking about the unbelievable non-farm payroll numbers that we just got here in the United States. Massive beat. We beat by over 150,000 jobs. 254,000 jobs added for September. Monster number. Oh, Lise, the average wait time for an SNL line is about 6 hours. That's not bad. I might as well do it in the summer and in the fall before the winter. I would never wait in the winter, no way. This is News Corporation here. You know, one of the things that we were talking about in the newsletter this week was to kind of really focus on putting the political noise aside. And I think this is a perfect example, like News Corp, right? CNN as well, but Fox News will always kind of, you know, down talk, to put it lightly, on New York City. But all of those anchors, they live in New York City. And they broadcast right here from 6th Avenue. So, like, they could move the headquarters somewhere else, right? They could go to Nashville, Tennessee. They could go wherever they wanted. But they're right here on 6th Avenue in New York. I always find that funny. Hey, 10 Red Bluff, what's up? Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a good week. TGIF to you.
We bought again this time.
Hey, Alexander. This is Tom. What is your take on covered call funds? BlackRock is reporting that actively managed ETFs will balloon to 4 trillion by 2030. JEPI is currently at 36 billion. JEPI. What ticker is that? Is that like an oil fund or something? Or I forget. What is JEPI? A finance ETF? I don't know. I guess the only thing I would say about just the ETF business in general is most ETFs tend to underperform, but they charge a crazy amount in fees. So I'd say just watch the fee income, watch the expense ratio. JP Morgan, yeah, premium income ETF. Got it. Tomahawks says, don't see how adding government jobs is positive, just strains the producing economy. That is very true. A large chunk of those 240,000, who knows, maybe it'll be revised down, we'll see. A large portion was from the government, so government sector jobs. Timothy James has really enjoyed your Upper West Side and Harlem walks. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I haven't been up there in a really long time, so.
I have other events planned.
And to be honest, if you go up to Harlem, like I was just south of 125th Street, it's much cleaner up there than it is in Midtown Manhattan. It's like very nice there. Timothy's is great neighborhood and great architecture. What you're starting to see a little bit, ever so slowly, is more and more of the modern new developments, creeping up towards Central Park North, 110th Street Cathedral Parkway, and into Harlem. I mean, there's some luxury condos now, luxury buildings that have gone up in Harlem. I think Harlem is going to be a much, much different place in 5 to 10 years. It already is. I mean, when I was living there, this was like one of my first apartments. I was living right off of 125th Street, and we had that Whole Foods open up. I mean, it always happens the same in New York, right? The rent gets so expensive in Manhattan that it builds outward. I mean, think about downtown Brooklyn. Think about Dumbo, Brooklyn. I mean, I think Dumbo, Brooklyn is case in point. Dumbo, Brooklyn is arguably more expensive than Manhattan. It's crazy. Williamsburg, Brooklyn, Brooklyn Heights. I mean, these are very, very expensive neighborhoods, okay? And it's usually like a 10-year jump cycle in New York. Some of the most dangerous neighborhoods of Brooklyn, New York are now quite expensive and are now quite nice. I mean, who's familiar with Fort Greene, Brooklyn? Anyone familiar with Fort Greene right as you're walking up towards the Brooklyn Navy Yard? I mean, think about how much that neighborhood has changed. It's pretty much unrecognizable. You have the Wegmans at the Brooklyn Navy Yard now, all these different coffee shops. It's like yuppie central there. It really is. I mean, Greenpoint, Brooklyn, the same. Really nice product going up in Greenpoint. It's really not affordable anymore. I mean, people go out to the boroughs for more affordable rent, but in some places, the most desirable places to live in Brooklyn and Queens, it's pretty expensive. I mean, think about Long Island City. I mean, that is probably the best case in point to talk about. If you grew up, born and raised in Long Island City, it's absolutely nothing like when you grew up there. It is very expensive. You have these ultra luxury high-rise condos. It's very expensive. Now we're outside of Bank of America Tower, and look at that color on the Empire State Building. Incredible color. Hey, Mark says, Tom, back in the day, you couldn't get a cab in Harlem and go down past 96th Street. Interesting. Timothy James says Brooklyn was ripe for it with available properties, just a matter of time for Harlem. I mean, some of the townhomes there are beautiful. They've been bought out, totally stripped, gutted, and many of them have been converted to single family up there too. This is now 42nd Street. We're overlooking Bryant Park on the left. Maybe we'll cross to the left. You can see the spire of the World Trade Center.
Right there.
Now, anecdotally, I mean, just from walking around the city tonight on a Friday night, I mean, the city is rocking tonight. Restaurants are packed, people are out. It seems like there's a lot of tourist activity tonight. I mean, people are out spending money. I mean, how is it like in your neck of the woods, wherever you guys are watching from? Are your cities and downtown, communities where you are this packed on a Friday night? Allen's single family is nice. I'm seeing more large homes built into area. Nobody wants large houses. We want single family, simple homes. I believe to Alan's point, I think it was the CEO of Toll Brothers and Pulte home that says the average square foot print of a single family home that they're building is much smaller, which I think is a great idea. I mean, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. Maybe I'm just too acclimated to living in small spaces, being from New York, but my house in Miami, I think is around 1,700 square feet. It's not big. Maybe it's a little more than that. I actually don't know. I probably should know. Anyway, I don't, when I didn't rent it out, I didn't know what to do with any of the space. I just didn't. The primary bedroom in my house was bigger than every single New York City apartment I've ever had. Just the primary bedroom. So, for these people who live in, middle America, Texas especially, with these 3,500 square foot, 4,000 square foot, what do you do with all that space? I honestly don't even know what you do with it. I mean, much of it must go unused, right? I don't know. If we can build more affordable homes that are, 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet, I think that's a good idea overall. Who dat Dave says you raise a family with that space? Yeah, I mean, obviously true, but I still feel if I had 2 kids, 3 bedrooms, 1,700 square feet, I think that's just, the kids are going to move out when they're 18. I don't know. Peter says, I don't like tiny bedrooms. Mine is 3,400 square feet. But Who Dat Dave has an obvious point, right? But unfortunately, if you look at all the statistics, Gen Z and millennials are having significantly less kids, which is a major problem. I don't know what we could do to turn that around. Middle-aged grinds, his wife and 4 kids, 3,000 square foot in South Louisiana. Alan says, my current apartment is 1,000 square foot, plenty for me. I'm never home, I work a lot. Interesting point. Hey, Stephen Bate, thank you so much for your support. Always appreciate you. Thank you very, very much. As we have this beautiful view of the Chrysler building. Grant says, have I ever watched the Trading Places movie? Oh, don't get the chat going. I have not watched the Trading Places movie yet. And yes, Brad's brain, I will be watching Trading Places before the holidays. I have to watch it. But Stephen Bate, thank you very, very much for your support. Hang with Mark Mom says, 1,000 square foot Cape Cod home until I saw my son's college diploma, and then I sold it fast and I was out of there. You're a 2,500 square foot former resort villa, but bought it at a steal. Very nice. That's big. 2,500 square foot is big. That's really big. This is
Let's say 5.
this is going to be a new marijuana dispensary, which is sad because it took over that very, very famous cigar shop. Anyone know what that cigar shop was called? I always miss the name of that cigar shop. But that was here for 100 years, I think. And now it's going to be some like ratty, like marijuana dispensary, which kind of sucks. Ah, Sherman, yeah, Nat Sherman. That is correct. Damn. The old Nat Sherman that was very classy and beautiful is going to be like a kingpin for illicit drugs. Well, what else is new? This is One Vanderbilt. So Trading Places is with Eddie Murphy, right? When's the last time Eddie Murphy was in a movie as of late? Any recent movie appearances by Eddie Murphy by chance? I can't remember any recent Eddie Murphy movies. I want to check out that flying helicopter drone again that Uber owns. Oh, so a quick update on that. I was talking to the guy at the drone place today, and he said what they're looking to do is price similar to Uber Black. So if anyone's taken an Uber Black from Manhattan to JFK, it's going to be similar competitive pricing to take the all-electric air drone from the west side of Manhattan to JFK. That's going to be amazing when it comes up. It's this electric air taxi that's on display inside Grand Central. This is Grand Central Station and Pershing Square. Lisa's Beverly Hills Cop. Oh, you know what's a movie that I never watch movies, as you guys know. But you know what movie I just watched that it was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. I watched the new Bad Boys movie with Will Smith on the flight to Korea. It was a good movie. I liked it. It was funny. It was good. Anybody see the new Bad Boys movie that came out recently? Wasn't bad. DC3 says you saw it. What were your thoughts? Thumbs up, thumbs down? I liked it. Now, you know what movie was horrible? I'm not a movies guy, so I mean, take what I say with a grain of salt. But the most mind-numbing, ridiculous movie, I actually forget the name. It was with that New Yorker kid who's a very talented guy. I think he was in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But it was him and Zendaya in this movie in a desert that was absolutely horrible. Terrible movie. So whatever that movie is, horrible. Dune 2, that's what it was. Absolute piss poor, that movie. I just couldn't understand that. I didn't even understand what it was about. Anyway. So guys, this is the future here. So this drone is going to take you from the west side of Manhattan to JFK. The Joby Electric Air Taxi. It's going to have a 100-mile range, a maximum speed of 200 miles an hour. The target payload is going to be about 1,000 pounds. They don't publish the cost here, but I was talking to the guy, nice guy, and he said that they want to price it as an Uber Black pricing. So, like, if you were to take like, a Suburban or something like that, they're going to price it similar to this, or this similar to that.
Outside now. Okay, I'm coming up. Great call.
What do you guys think?
You're near, okay, you're near the taxis, right? The yellow taxis here. Okay, I'm coming out. Okay.
It's pretty cool, right? Professor Darius is around 70 bucks. I think it will be more like maybe 170 bucks. But still, I mean, $170. I think I told you guys before, this company Blade, depending on if it's like peak hours, I've gotten like maybe $150 price to take me from JFK to Manhattan, and the Blade was only like maybe $25 more, which is a helicopter. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Would you be open to taking this electric helicopter to JFK? I think I would. I think that's the future. The problem is, I mean, the thing is so tiny. I mean, only 1,000-pound payload. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it seems like the wind could blow that around in no time. Bubblegum says, I'd rather buy a helicopter. Well, if you had to guess, how much do you think it would cost to just acquire one of those yourself? Maybe $2 million bucks? I honestly don't think it would cost that much. Because very old PJs, like a very old private jet, I think you can get for around like $2 million bucks, can't you? Like a smaller, older jet, I think you could buy one for like $2 million. Has anyone ever seen those Honda? Honda actually makes like a four-seater private jet, and I think those are around like $2 million, I think. What? Who Dat Dave says way too high? I would say 300,000. You can't buy that thing for 300,000 bucks. If you could buy that thing for 300,000 bucks, I'd buy it right now. There's no way you could buy that plane for $300,000. Really? I have to do some research into that. That seems way too low. I would guess $2 million. $300,000 is not a lot of money to buy an air taxi. Larry Adams says, I saw some in Miami that are cheaper. Wait, cheaper than what? 3 million or cheaper than 300,000? Because if it's cheaper than 300,000, I think that's some Miami, Miami scheme. Yeah, I think 3 to 4 million is more in the right range. Who knows? Over time, Maybe everyone will have their own air taxis. Someone says, who is the pilot? An 8-year-old kid with the gaming controller? I mean, pretty soon those are probably going to be all automated. Wow, who dat Dave says you just looked it up and it is 300K. Then I may seriously consider buying one. It's just where would I put it? And the maintenance. But 300,000 just seems so cheap for your own cruiser little jet thing. Look at this. It looks like they're trying to plant trees on the top of this building. Look at this. So they have to get a crane to get it on the roof. It's actually pretty unique. You know, we had to do something similar with one of the listings we had in Brooklyn. They wanted to put a sauna on the roof and it wouldn't fit in the elevator. So we had to get a permit from the city and we had to get a crane and we had to lift it up there. This is a very unique shot of the Chrysler building. Wow, Peter says the website says it costs $350,000 and the ride is $200 to JFK. That's unbelievable. $350,000. That is, I mean, think about what the future is going to be like. $300,000 for that? I mean, maybe it's just, I mean, I don't know anything about aircraft, but to me, that seems very attainable for like the average guy or girl to get their own, you know, drone. How much was the range again? A 200-mile range? Well, I guess that's not a lot. I mean, you can't even get from New York City to like Buffalo, New York on that. You would need to make like 2 trips, 3 trips. But who knows? There was one of my clients I was working with, and just in an unrelated thing, he was having me do a cost-benefit analysis if he was going to get a jet or not. And the biggest expense is just the maintenance and the hangar to store it. That's the biggest issue. Also the flight hours. Felix asks, how long does it take to recharge the helicopter? I don't know. I want to see a demo of that thing taking off. D says it's definitely the year of the Jetsons. Ah, that's right. Who Dat Dave says the target range was 100 miles. and the top speed was 200 miles an hour. So the range is only 100 miles. I feel as if that's a little dangerous, isn't it? Because when you're flying around, depending on air traffic, you can be up in the air for much longer than you would have expected. And what if you need to land like immediately? I think a 100-mile range is not going to be sufficient. Who knows? The tech is still new, it appears. We're going to walk right in front of 270 Park. I have a few friends that are really, really heavy into aviation, but I do not really know anything about it. What do you guys think about 270 Park so far? I think it's turning out pretty good. There's 432. Adam Lukes is at the building with all the structural issues. Well, the developer is CIM Group, and they're getting sued by some of the current residences. I think the litigation is still ongoing, but from people that I know, many of the problems have been fixed. We're now headed northbound on Madison Avenue, 49th Street. This is a quick reminder to everybody. I did send out our free investing newsletter yesterday. We talked about a lot, so go ahead and check your email. And if you haven't signed up yet, we do write a free investment piece every other Thursday, right as the market closes. And we talked about a lot. We talked about the PBOC easing. We talked about a potential bull thesis in Singapore, Japan, China. So you do not want to miss that. We send out all of our research for free every other Thursday, right as the market closes. Now we're walking outside the New York Palace, and this is the south side, well, the southeast side of St. Patrick's Cathedral. I always see a lot of these are like driver cars, right? These Maybachs. How much do you think one of these will run you? 200,000? for new. Maybe used a little bit less. Jack says Bentley. I think that was a Maybach, if I'm pronouncing it right. Left-handed says for new, 125,000. I would have guessed more. Hey, Go for Hockeys, what's up? Thanks for joining us. I'm just walking back to the office. We're wrapping up here. Bart R says 2025 Mercedes Maybach S-Class is expected to go for around 200,000 and then go up to 340. Insane. It's like driving around a house. You know what's really big in Manhattan? Everyone has these Range Rovers. Range Rover, Land Rover. Maybe they get some sort of tax write-off about it. I'm not a CPA, but I think a lot of people get those cars if they own a business for like the weight or something. They get a tax deduction or write-off. I don't even have a car. I don't drive. Tatted T says they are very popular as well in California. Also the G-Wagons, I see tons of those. I know, Peter says, I noticed in the Hamptons that there are masses of Land Rovers. That Connecticut, here's one right now. Oh, Range Rover, Land Rover, whatever. Kent says Ben's G-Wagon and the Range Rovers qualify for the tax deduction because of the weight. Got it. I don't know. For me, in New York City, it's just so easy to get around. I feel like you have more freedom without having a vehicle. I don't know, it's just me. You know, if you live in the suburbs, you're like, I gotta get a car, or I feel like a prisoner. But in the city, I mean, if you have a car, it's like weighing you down. It's like a drag. You gotta find a place to park it, you gotta worry about people damaging it. So, Leanne says, how do I get around in Miami? I drive a little Vespa scooter, I have two of them. And that is the best thing ever. Now, I don't take it on highways. From my understanding, the law in the state of Florida is if the engine is 50 cc's, or if it's under 55 cc engine, you do not have to get a motorcycle license, from my understanding. So you could have a regular driver's license. But if you go above that, then you have to take a course, you have to get your motorcycle license. So, I mean, I only cruise around Miami Beach. I'm only in and around, Miami Beach, North Miami Beach, Sunny Isles, and it's just me. So I don't need to, have a car. I mean, if I have kids and, a family and stuff, I'm not going to be strapping everyone to the back of the Vespa. I'll buy a Tesla. I always said the first car I'll buy is probably a Tesla Model X. I really, really like the Model X with the doors that open. I mean, speaking of Tesla, we have the Robotaxi event on the 10th. But I was watching this YouTube video about one of the new software updates for Tesla. And it was this kid, you pull up your phone, right? You have the app on your phone. And you could, let's say here's an example. Let's say if you're in a Walmart parking lot, Costco parking lot. Instead of taking all of your groceries and lugging them to your car, you just press a button and you call your car. So the Tesla will pull itself out of the parking space, drive to the front of the store. It's like you're calling your car. It's the coolest thing ever. And apparently it's a new feature with one of the new updates. I think that's awesome. It's like your own personal chauffeur. You click a button and it'll navigate right to you. It's insane. Sam's is 50 cc's or less. This is Jeffrey's Investment Bank right here. Let's take a little bit of a detour and check this out. I know, Brad's like, there's nothing like a good motorcycle ride. I'm telling you, if any of you visit Miami, Florida, what you've got to do is get yourself a little Vespa or like scooter, maybe you could even rent it or whatnot, and you've got to go to Haulover Inlet during sunset. So Haulover Inlet, right as you come over from Bal Harbor, headed towards Sunny Isles Beach, it's the most unbelievable sunset you'll ever see in your life. Right as you go over Haulover Inlet from Bal Harbor, headed north, you'll pass by the Haulover Marina, Haulover Beach. It's beautiful. It's honestly beautiful. And I'm actually kind of upset that they redid that whole strip over there because they put in all of these streetlights, like huge streetlights they put in. And it kind of puts a little bit of light pollution in the air so you can't really see the stars and stuff. It used to just be pitch black. But maybe some of the Floridians here know what I'm talking about, but it's awesome. South Florida is amazing. Some of you are probably familiar. Surfside, Miami, Bal Harbor, just amazing places to be. Yeah, Bardar, that's true. Haulover Inlet is exactly that place. There's a really big YouTube channel that I watch quite often. Sometimes I have it up at the office. I think it's called Wavy Boats. And it's this guy who has a drone. I've actually seen him there a few times. He has this drone and he flies it out over Haulover Inlet. And there's these people that are just not experienced at all. You could tell they're not experienced at all with captaining a boat. And when it's very, very rough out there at Haulover, I mean, just watch that YouTube channel if you want to go down a rabbit hole this weekend. Check out Wavy Boats and go to some of their most popular videos. Crazy stuff. Well, I think this was a productive week. We covered a ton. We talked about the manufacturing sector, we talked about the services sector, we talked about the revised GDP numbers. Today we did a deep dive into the non-farm payrolls, which blew it out of the water. 254,000 jobs. But I am getting a little tired, and I think I'm going to sign off, go back to the office, and then go to sleep. As always, thanks so much for joining us. Quick reminder, we did send out that free investing newsletter. Go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email. That is our Substack. It's a great free way to support the stream while getting all of the necessary financial information that you need. We'll see you guys tomorrow live from Tribeca. I want to try to get you guys to Lower Manhattan tomorrow. Maybe while the weather is still nice, we'll walk across the Brooklyn Bridge. We'll check out Dumbo. we'll do all that good stuff. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful weekend. Professor Dario, thank you so much. Lemonade, Stephen Bate, Jay, Michelle Henry, Janice S., Reggie 44, Paul, Allen, all of our moderators, Dee, Joseph Hardaway, Mark. Thanks everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow night on Walks on Wall Street. Thanks everybody.